What if a boy's quiet claim about his grandpa's kickboxing glory was laughed off as a childish fantasy only for a legend to walk through the gym doors and silence the doubters? Welcome to The Silent Champion in the Gym, a story that'll grip your heart and flip your perspective with a reveal so powerful it'll leave you cheering. Picture this: an 11-year-old stands in a noisy school gym sharing a truth about his family's legacy, only to be mocked by his peers and coach. But the truth has a way of showing up unannounced, and when it doesn't just speak, it commands buckle up. This tale of prejudice, courage, and jaw-dropping redemption is about to take you on a wild ride. McCullen Elementary's gym was a chaotic carnival of sound and color, transformed for athletic week into a stage for sweat and spectacle. The polished hardwood floor gleamed under fluorescent lights, reflecting posters of Olympic sprinters and marathon runners taped haphazardly to the cinder block walls. A plastic podium sat beneath the scoreboard, its chipped edges a testament to years of school assemblies, while red and blue balloons bobbed near the ceiling fans, their strings swaying in the artificial breeze. The air carried the faint scent of rubber mats and teenage deodorant, mingling with the squeak of sneakers and the buzz of preteen chatter. Fifth graders filed into the bleachers, their color-coded t-shirts red for Team Lightning, blue for Team Thunder, creating a patchwork of restless energy. Some clutched water bottles, others traded Pokemon cards, their voices a symphony of boasts, giggles, and groans. The gym was a microcosm of childhood where dreams of glory clashed with the harsh edges of peer judgment. And today, it was the stage for a moment. No one would forget Eli Carter sat cross-legged in the third row of the bleachers, his navy hoodie slightly oversized, his worn sneakers tucked beneath him. At 11, Eli was a quiet boy who preferred the precision of kicking drills to the chaos of dodgeball. His love for straight lines and clean form, a refuge from the noise of school life. His dark eyes stayed low, scanning the gym floor, avoiding the spotlight that always seemed to burn too bright. His short, curly hair was neatly trimmed, and his hands rested calmly in his lap, fingers tapping a silent rhythm only he could hear. Eli wasn't one for showboating. He liked motion, breath, and control, the kind of discipline he'd learned watching old kickboxing videos with his grandpa James Iron Carter, a man whose name was etched in martial arts history. But Eli kept that to himself. His family's legacy, a private treasure, he guarded fiercely. Today he just wanted to blend in to survive Athletic Week's fanfare without drawing attention. But attention, like a stray ball, had a way of finding him. Coach Derek Lawson, the PE teacher, stood at the center of the gym, his whistle dangling from his lips like a badge of authority. At 35, Derek was a former high school wrestler turned educator, his broad shoulders and booming voice commanding the room with a mix of charisma and intimidation. His red tracksuit was emblazoned with McCullen Mavericks, and his clipboard was a scepter waved to silence the crowd. "All right, Mavericks, let's kick off Athletic Week," he bellowed, his voice amplified by a handheld mic, the feedback screeching briefly before settling. "Today we celebrate strength, speed, and stories that move us." The students clapped, some cheered, others yawned their enthusiasm, a patchwork of genuine excitement and obligatory noise. Eli stayed quiet, his eyes on the floor, hoping to fade into the bleachers' sea of faces. But Derek, ever the showman, wasn't done. "Who here wants to share something awesome about your family?" he asked, his grin wide, his mic sweeping the crowd like a searchlight. "Maybe your mom was a track star. Maybe your uncle ran a marathon. Let's hear it." Hands shot up the mic, passing down rows like a relay baton. "My dad ran cross-country in college," shouted a boy in a red shirt, earning polite applause. "My sister plays volleyball for the high school," called a girl in blue, her voice drowned by cheers. "My cousin was on American Ninja Warrior," almost said another, sparking laughter that felt light, harmless. Eli sank lower, his hoodie a shield, but Aisha Patel, his best friend, since third grade, nudged him from the seat beside him. "Say it," she whispered, her dark braids swinging, her eyes bright with encouragement. "You told me about your grandpa. Say it." Eli hesitated, his fingers tightening around the hem of his hoodie, his heart pounding. He didn't want the spotlight, didn't want the risk. But Aisha's nudge was a quiet push, a reminder of the stories they'd shared over lunch. Stories of his grandpa's fights, his medals, his unbreakable streak. Eli raised his hand, slow and uncertain, his breath catching as Derek's gaze landed on him. "Yes, Eli Carter," Derek called, tossing the mic to a nearby student who passed it down the row. "What have you got for us?" The gym's noise dulled eyes turning to Eli, some curious, others indifferent. He stood his sneakers squeaking on the bleacher step, the mic heavy in his hand. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't shake, carrying a quiet conviction. "My grandpa holds a national record for the longest undefeated streak in kickboxing," he said, pausing to steady himself. 7 years, 183 wins. The gym fell silent, not with awe, but with a stunned, skeptical pause. For a moment, it seemed the room might hold its breath, might honor the weight of his words. Then a slow, sarcastic woo-woo broke from the back row, followed by snickers, then outright laughter. "What, in Wii Sports?" shouted a boy in a blue shirt, his voice sharp, drawing cackles. "Must have been against pillows," called another, the gym erupting in giggles. Eli stood frozen, the mic still in his hand, his ears ringing, his throat burning. Derek, still holding his clipboard, chuckled, not a full laugh, just enough to twist the knife. "That's quite the stat, Eli," he said, his tone patronizing, his grin wide. "You sure it wasn't a dream? Or maybe a video game leaderboard?" The gym exploded again, laughter echoing off the cinder block walls. Kids leaning forward, some mimicking fake punches, others shouting, "Look out! It's knockout!" to Eli. A girl in the front row grunted, shadowboxing the air. "Pow po! Pow, Grandpa's the champ." Eli's face didn't move, his arms stiff at his sides, but something inside him cracked a quiet fracture only he could feel. Aisha looked down, biting her lip, her earlier encouragement now a weight of guilt. Derek, sensing the shift, raised his hands, his whistle bouncing. All right, let's be nice," he said, his tone half-hearted. "We love big dreams, don't we?" But the damage was done. The gym had chosen its joke, and Eli's name was scrawled across it. The laughter followed him out of the gym, trailing like a shadow down the hallway. By lunch, someone had drawn a stick figure on the whiteboard near the gym entrance. Its oversized boxing gloves raised a speech bubble reading, "Grandpa KO" above it in thick red marker. Eli's epic fail. Eli walked past without blinking, his fists clenched in his pockets, his sneakers dragging slightly each step, heavier than the last. In the cafeteria, whispers buzzed like flies. Kids quoting fake stats, 183 imaginary wins and 7 years undefeated in Minecraft. A boy at the next table slid a tray of green beans toward him, smirking. "For your training, champ. High protein." Eli pushed the tray away, his eyes on his untouched sandwich, his appetite gone. Aisha sat beside him, her voice quiet. "I'm sorry," she said, her braids swinging as she leaned closer. "I shouldn't have pushed you." Eli shrugged, his voice flat. "It's fine," he said, but it wasn't. The words stung, not because they were new, but because they'd landed on a truth he'd dared to share. In the teacher's lounge, Derek leaned back in a plastic chair, sipping Gatorade, his whistle dangling from his neck. "Kid said his grandpa fought, 100 guys?" He chuckled, retelling the story to Ms. Clara Evans, the math teacher. "I mean, come on. I teach 5th grade, not fairy tales." Clara laughed, shaking her head. "Hope his grandpa doesn't show up to prove you wrong," she teased, but Derek snorted. "I wish," he said, his grin wide. At least then the story'd be worth telling. But what Derek didn't know, what none of them knew, was that someone had clicked on the school's website that morning, someone with calloused knuckles and a drawer full of medals. James Iron Carter, Eli's grandpa, had seen his grandson's name on the Athletic Week roster, and for the first time in years, he'd paused, opened that drawer, and felt the weight of a legacy he'd long set aside. By second period, the joke had mutated into a meme. A 5th grader named Jaden taped a colored pencil drawing to Eli's locker. A stick figure in boxing gloves knocked out by a giant waffle captioned, "Iron Eli serving L's since forever." By lunch, it was scanned, turned into a sticker, and slapped on water bottles. Kids quoted fake stats in the hallway. 183 wins in pillow fights and undefeated in Fortnite. Eli said nothing, didn't tear the papers down, didn't argue. He moved slower, sat quieter, let the storm pass over him, even as it soaked through his resolve. In gym class, Derek ran cone drills, his whistle piercing the air. When Eli lagged behind, Derek called out loud enough for the field to hear. "Come on, champ," thought kickboxing. Royalty ran in the family. The laughter was sharp, a whistle from another student echoing. "Let's go." Knockout Eli, the nickname stuck a splinter under his skin, each mention twisting deeper. At recess, 3 older boys blocked Eli by the vending machines, one holding a pencil like a mic. Exclusive interview with the grandson of Punchy McPunchface. He mocked at, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Sir, how's it feel to invent a whole martial arts dynasty?" Eli kept his eyes on the juice machine, his silence a shield, but another boy chimed in. Maybe his grandpa babysat Jackie Chan. They didn't push him, didn't need to. Words hit harder when dressed in laughter. Aisha, watching from a distance, slipped her phone from her pocket, her thumb hitting record, capturing the boy's taunts, her heart racing with anger and guilt. She sent the video to her older sister, a college student who'd promised to get it to Eli's family, knowing it might reach his grandpa back in class. Aisha slid a note onto Eli's desk. "You okay?" He didn't answer, not out of anger, but because he didn't know anymore. At home, Eli opened his school folder, staring at a page he'd once filled with stats about his grandpa dates, victories, titles, all in his neat handwriting. He tore it out, folded it tightly, and dropped it into the trash, the paper landing with a soft thud, a piece of his pride buried with it. Dinner was quiet, his plate untouched, his eyes on the table. "James?" His grandpa noticed his calloused hands resting on the counter, his gray eyes steady but gentle. "Tough day?" he asked, his voice low. No pressure behind it. Eli gave a small shrug, his voice barely audible. They laughed. He said the words heavy. James nodded his silence, a quiet understanding, but he didn't push. "You say it out loud?" he asked. Eli nodded, his eyes on the floor. James leaned in, his voice firm. "Then it was a strong day." Eli looked up confused, but James didn't explain. Just let the words settle, a seed planted in the boy's heart. That night, Eli sat on his bed, his backpack unopened, his sneakers still on. The laughter echoed in his mind. Derek's chuckle, the boy's taunts, the whiteboard's cruel caricature. He didn't cry, didn't shout, just sat, the weight of the day pressing down. James stood in the doorway, his silhouette filling the frame, his presence a quiet anchor. "They laughed at me too," he said, his voice steady, his eyes on the horizon of memory. "Back when I was your age, before the belts, the trophies, I was just a skinny kid with big dreams and bigger doubts." Eli didn't respond, but his fingers stilled his silence, a question. James stepped into the room, his boots soft on the carpet. "You don't need them to believe you," he said. "You need you to believe you." Eli's eyes flickered, but he didn't speak, the words too heavy to lift. James left the room, but the house wasn't silent for long. In the garage, the creak of a metal trunk broke the stillness, its hinges groaning, as James opened it for the first time in years. Inside, old wraps smelled of sweat and liniment. A photo of him in '76, arm raised in victory, and at the bottom a polished bronze plaque. James Iron Carter, National Kickboxing, Hall of Fame. Longest undefeated streak, 183 wins. He ran his thumb across the engraving, his jaw tightening not with anger, but with purpose. Eli's truth had been mocked, his pride wounded, and James knew silence wasn't enough anymore. The gym had laughed at a legacy, but legacies don't stay quiet. They show up unannounced and demand to be seen. The stage was set, the curtain rising on a moment that would change McCullen. Elementary forever. The gym at McCullen Elementary was a cauldron of restless energy, its polished hardwood floor and balloon-strewn bleachers buzzing with the chaos of Athletic Week's fourth day. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and rubber mats, the walls plastered with posters of Olympians, their triumphant poses a stark contrast to the drama unfolding below. Eli Carter. 11 sat on the edge of the bleachers, his navy hoodie, a quiet shield, his dark eyes fixed on the floor, the sting of yesterday's mockery still raw. The nickname Knockout Eli had become a school-wide taunt fueled by Coach Derek Lawson's public jest and the viral spread of Aisha Patel's video, which captured the gym's laughter, and Derek's sarcastic quip about Eli's grandpa, James Iron Carter. A supposed kickboxing myth, the clip now trending with # Knockout Eli, and thousands of views, had turned Eli's truth into a punchline with whiteboard caricatures and locker memes mocking his claim of James' 183-win streak. Derek stood at midcourt, his red tracksuit vibrant, his whistle bouncing as he waved his mic, his charisma masking the unease creeping into his smirk. Aisha, Eli's loyal friend, sat nearby, her braids swinging, her phone clutched tightly, her video, a silent weapon that had reached James's inbox. Mr. and Mrs. Langley, influential parents who'd laughed loudest at Eli's claim, watched from the sidelines, their tailored suits and pearl earrings, a facade of authority now tinged with doubt. The gym was a stage, and Eli's quiet resolve was about to be vindicated by a legend's arrival, turning mockery into awe and setting the stage for a reckoning. The bleachers hummed with fifth graders, their chatter a mix of excitement and cruelty, some whispering, "Where's Kick Boy's fake champ?" while others traded bets on whether Eli would cry again. Derek, ever the showman, leaned into the mic, his voice booming over the crowd. All right, Mavericks, let's keep the energy high. He called, tossing a tennis ball in his palm. Day 4 is about surprises, and we've got some special guests. The students clapped their enthusiasm half-hearted, their eyes darting to Eli, expecting another round of ridicule. Aisha's gaze flickered to the double doors, her heart racing, knowing her sister had sent the video to James, hoping it would spur him to act. Eli's hands gripped his hoodie, his silence a shield, but his resolve was iron forged by James's words the night before. You don't need them to believe you. You need you to believe you. Derek's grin widened his mic, sweeping the bleachers. Yesterday we heard some big claims, he said, his tone teasing his eyes, landing on Eli. Eli Carter told us his grandpa's a kickboxing legend. 183 wins, 7 years undefeated. The gym erupted in snickers. A boy in the back row shouting, "Yeah, in Dreamland." Another mimicked a fake punch, grunting, "Grandpa's the Pillow King." Derek chuckled, his whistle bouncing his laughter, a spark that reignited the crowd's mockery. "Come on, Eli. Let's see that champ DNA," he called, tossing a pair of oversized red sparring gloves onto the floor, their straps skidding toward Eli's sneakers. "Show us your stance, knockout." The gym roared, kids leaning forward, some chanting. "Kick boy, kick boy." Eli stood slowly, his sneakers squeaking, his face unreadable, the gloves heavy in his hands as he slipped them on, their faded seam a quiet echo of his grandpa's legacy. Eli stepped to the center, his stance awkward but deliberate, his hands raised as balance, unsteady. The gloves were too big, the straps loose, but he held his ground, his eyes on the floor, ignoring the chants. Derek took a theatrical step back, hands up, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Careful, folks. We've got a contender." The laughter was sharp, a girl in the front row giggling. "He's going to trip like yesterday." Eli threw a slow roundhouse kick, his foot wobbling, his balance faltering. He didn't fall, but the stumble was enough, the gym exploding in cackles. Derek clapped twice his mic, amplifying his mock applause. "Ladies and gentlemen, the undisputed champion of air kicking." The crowd's laughter echoed meaner, now the taunts a splinter under Eli's skin. Aisha's hands trembled, her phone recording the scene. Her anger boiling as she whispered, "This isn't right." Eli set the gloves down gently, his movements measured, and walked back to the bleachers, his head high despite the weight of the room's scorn. The chants followed him. Knockout Eli, 0 wins, but he didn't flinch, his silence a quiet defiance. Derek, sensing the crowd's energy, moved on, calling up a local yoga instructor, but the gym's focus lingered on Eli, the joke, too fresh to fade. In the hallway, a new meme appeared on a whiteboard, a stick figure in boxing gloves knocked out by a cartoon waffle captioned, "Iron Eli's epic flop." Kids snapped photos, the image spreading online. Knockout. Eli trending alongside cruel comments. "Fake champ, fake kicks." Aisha's video, now at 10,000 views, had reached James, and her sister's message confirmed he'd seen it. His response a simple, "I'm coming." The gym's double doors creaked open, and the noise didn't stop immediately, but it stuttered like a record skipping. A man stood in the doorway, his denim jacket unbuttoned, his black shirt tucked into slacks, his gray hair cropped close, his calloused hands calm at his sides. James Iron Carter carried a presence that silenced the room without effort, his steady gaze sweeping the bleachers, landing on Eli. Then Derek. The crowd's chatter dulled, kids nudging each other, whispers rippling. "Who's that?" James stepped forward, his boots soft on the hardwood, a thin black case under one arm, his silence louder than any announcement. Derek's smirk faltered, his mic, lowering his whistle still. Aisha's eyes widened, her phone still recording, her heart pounding as she recognized the man from Eli's stories. James walked to the center of the gym, his steps deliberate, each one a punctuation mark. The bleachers fell silent, not with fear but with awe, the kind that comes when truth enters a room that doubted it. He stopped at the scorer's table, opened the black case, and pulled out a polished bronze plaque, its surface catching the fluorescent lights. He turned it to face the crowd, the engraving clear: James Iron Carter, National Kickboxing Hall of Fame, longest undefeated PA, 83 win lanes, 7 years. The gym gasped, kids leaning forward, some standing, their phones raised, capturing the moment. Derek's face paled, his clipboard slipping slightly, his voice gone. Mr. Langley whispered to his wife, "That's him, his tailored suit, no shield against his shame." Mrs. Langley's earrings glinted her earlier laughter, a regret she couldn't voice. James placed the plaque on the table, his hand steady, then looked at Derek, his gray eyes piercing. "Someone here said my name sounded unrealistic." He said, his voice low but resonant, caring without effort. Thought legacy was just a word for exaggeration. The gym was silent, every eye fixed on him, the weight of his presence crushing the mockery. He glanced at Eli, a faint nod passing between them, then turned back to Derek. "You train their bodies," he said, his tone even but firm. "I hope you teach them what it means to keep their word, even when no one believes it." Especially then, Derek swallowed his might, forgotten. His usual bravado shattered Aisha's video, captured every word, the clip destined to go viral. Comments already flooding in. "That's the champ," and Eli was right. Eli stood his hoodie loose, his sneakers squeaking as he walked to the center, his hands steady as he took the plaque from James. The gym watched, no chants, no laughter, just a quiet respect that felt new-earned. James' voice softened, addressing the crowd. "But speaking to Eli, doubt doesn't change the truth," he said. "It just makes it stronger when it shows up." He turned to leave his boots, soft on the floor, but paused, looking back at Derek. "You don't mock what you don't understand." He said, his words a quiet command. "If you're lucky, you'll learn why." The doors closed behind him, the gym froze in the silence, heavy with the weight of a lesson no one could unlearn. Derek blinked, his voice returning weak and strained. "Let's give a big thank you to Mr. Carter," he stammered, his claps sparse, the crowd's response muted like applause. For a moment they didn't fully grasp. Eli held the plaque, its weight grounding him, his silence louder than the laughter that had haunted him. Aisha's video hit 50,000 views, comments now. "Global legends shut them up, and Eli's grandpa is GOAT." Mr. Langley leaned toward his wife, whispering, "We were wrong," his earlier ridicule, a mistake he couldn't undo. Mrs. Langley nodded, her face pale. Eli revealed a quiet truth, his voice steady. "I've been training," he said, addressing the gym, his eyes on Derek, not to fight but to honor him. The crowd gasped, kids exchanging glances, some filming, others whispering in awe. The revelation shamed Derek, whose smirk was gone, his authority crumbling under Eli's resolve. Aisha's video captured the moment now, trending with hashtag silent champion, comments raging, "Eli's the real champ." Derek cleared his throat, his voice shaky. "Eli, I was wrong," he said, the words forced but sincere. "You shouldn't have had to prove anything." The gym's silence was a verdict, the coach's apology, a small step toward redemption. But the real victory was Eli's standing tall, plaque in hand, his truth undeniable. The stage was set for a final act, with the school facing pressure to honor James's legacy and Eli's courage, ready to inspire a new chapter. McCullough Elementary's gym, once a crucible of mockery, was now a monument to transformation. Its polished hardwood and faded posters bearing witness to the seismic shift sparked by Eli Carter's courage and James Iron Carter's legendary arrival. Aisha Patel's viral video capturing the moment James unveiled his National Kickboxing Hall of Fame plaque had amassed over 1 million views with hashtags #SilentChampion and #JusticeFor. Eli trending globally, turning Eli's ridiculed truth into a rallying cry for respect. The clip showing James's quiet authority, silencing Coach Derek Lawson's taunts, had reshaped the school's narrative. Its name no longer a punchline, but a beacon of redemption. Eli, now 11, sat taller in class, his navy hoodie, a quiet badge of resilience, his sketchbook filled with new drawings of fighters standing tall. Derek, his red tracksuit dulled by shamefaced scrutiny from parents and the principal. His once loud persona subdued. Aisha, the unsung hero, carried her phone with pride, her video, a spark that had ignited change. Mr. and Mrs. Langley, the parents who'd fueled the initial laughter, volunteered at school events, their pearl earrings and tailored suits, now symbols of atonement. James's visit had crushed the mockery, but the real legacy was unfolding. A school reformed, a boy empowered, and a community learning the weight of truth. The gym was no longer just a stage. It was a testament to the silent champion's enduring impact. The video's ripple effects were profound. By the time the school board met, Hammer's silent champion was a global movement, with comments like, "Eli's grandpa is a legend," and "Respect the truth" flooding social media. Local news ran segments titled "Kickboxing," "Icon Schools, Bullies, and Fifth Graders' Truth Triumphs," while influencers shared the clip, amplifying its reach. Parents emailed the principal demanding accountability for Derek's role, while students posted apologies on the school's online forum, some admitting their laughter had been wrong. The whiteboard memes once mocking Eli with Grandpa KO were erased, replaced by a student-drawn mural of a boxer's glove captioned, "Truth hits hard." Aisha's video, now at 2 million views, had reached Maya Brooks, a local reporter for City Pulse, whose article, "The Silent Champion Who Changed the School," went viral, framing Eli's story as a lesson in resilience. The school board, led by Principal Clara Evans, faced pressure to address the culture of mockery, announcing a review of bullying policies and staff conduct. Inside the school, the atmosphere shifted. Eli walked the halls with a quiet confidence. His sneakers no longer dragging his eyes, meeting those who once taunted him. Kids who chanted "Kick Boy" now nodded respectfully, some asking, "Is your grandpa really that?" James Carter. Eli's simple, "Yeah," was enough. His truth, no longer a joke. Aisha, emboldened by her video's impact, started a student blog, Truth Tellers, to share stories of overlooked kids, her braids swinging as she typed furiously in the library. Mr. and Mrs. Langley, once vocal in their dismissal of Eli's claim, met with Principal Evans offering to fund a sportsmanship award in James' name, their earlier prejudice a lesson learned. "We misjudged him," Mrs. Langley admitted, her earrings glinting, her voice soft with regret. Mr. Langley nodded his tailored suit, a humbled shell. "We'll make it right," he said, their donation a step toward redemption. Derek faced immediate consequences. Principal Evans called him into her office, her voice firm. "Your actions humiliated a student," she said, her glasses reflecting the desk lamp. "You're on probation and you'll complete inclusivity training." Derek's usual smirk was gone, his whistle untouched, his voice low. "I didn't know who he was," he said, his excuse weak. Evans' gaze was unrelenting. "You didn't need to know," she said. "You needed to respect him." The school issued a public apology posted on its website. "We regret the incident during athletic week and are committed to fostering respect for all students." Parents praised the move, but online comments demanded more. "Fire the coach and honor Eli Derek." Once the gym's loudest voice, now coached quietly. His drills subdued his authority. Diminished. Eli's transformation was subtler but profound. At home, he sat with James, the bronze plaque on the kitchen table, its engraving a quiet anchor. "Why didn't you tell them sooner?" Eli asked, his voice soft, his hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands. James leaned back, his gray eyes steady. "Didn't need to," he said. "Truth doesn't need a megaphone, it just needs time." Eli nodded, his fingers tracing the plaque's edge, a new sketch taking shape in his mind. A boy in gloves, not fighting but standing unshaken. Aisha's blog post. Eli's truth went live, detailing his resilience, its comments filled with support. "You're a champ, Eli." Maya Brooks's follow-up article announced a youth kickboxing camp inspired by James, funded by community donations, with Eli as its first student. The camp Iron Legacy aimed to teach discipline and respect. Its logo, a glove with "Truth hits hard" etched beneath. In a surprising twist, Derek approached Eli after school. His tracksuit wrinkled, his voice hesitant. "I was wrong," he said, holding out a handwritten note, its words echoing his earlier apology. "You didn't need to prove anything." "I'm sorry." Eli took the note, his gaze steady, his voice quiet but firm. "Actions speak louder than words," he said, echoing James' wisdom. Derek nodded, his face flushed, and offered to volunteer at Iron Legacy coaching kids with a humility he'd never shown before. Eli, now training under James, met Derek at the camp, his gloves snug, his stance stronger. "Show them respect." Eli said, his words a challenge. Derek accepted his coaching, now a path to redemption, earning cautious respect from the boy he'd mocked. The school honored James's legacy with a shadow box in the gym unveiled quietly after hours. Inside, a pair of his old black gloves worn at the knuckles sat above a brass plate. "Legacy isn't loud, it endures." Eli saw it on a Monday, pausing mid-stride, his sneakers silent on the hardwood. He didn't smile, didn't touch it. Just stood, the gloves a reminder of a truth that had waited to be seen. A second grader nearby pointed, whispering, "That's Eli's grandpa." Her friend nodding, awestruck. Derek, passing by, slowed his whistle, still his voice soft. "Your idea?" he asked. Eli shook his head. "Theirs," he said, gesturing to the school. The display, proposed by Aisha's blog readers, was a community effort, a silent apology from McCullen. Eli's confidence grew, his kicks sharper, his sketches bolder. At Iron Legacy, he sparred with Aisha, who joined the camp, her braid bouncing as she dodged his jab, their laughter a new bond. Maya's article on the camp, From Mockery to Mentorship, sparked national interest, with gyms adopting its model. The school reformed its bullying policies, mandating respect workshops, and named the gym Carter Court, honoring James and Eli, Mr. and Mrs. Langley's Award. The Iron Spirit went to Eli, its first recipient, his acceptance speech. Simple, truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. The crowd applauded their earlier doubts. A distant memory. Derek's volunteering became a fixture, his drills now focused on effort, not ego. His redemption, a quiet echo of Eli's resilience. Eli, thriving, sketched a new image, a gym empty. But for a shadow box, a boy walking past head high, the Smithsonian requested his sketchbook for a Youth Voices exhibit, its final page. I stood a mantra for resilience. McCullen was no longer a place of ridicule, it was his testament to Eli's silent championship. A reminder that truth, when it arrives, doesn't echo, it endures. Have you ever been doubted for your truth? Share your story in the comments and let's inspire each other. Hit that subscribe button for more epic tales that'll change how you see the world. This is PA Storytime, and we're just getting started.